Wow. Very cool. A friend of mine just started her doctorate and she's my age. Ooh. I mean,
That's ambitious.
very ambitious. And I'm like, and she's going in actually for CBT therapy,
Mm,
cognitive behavioral therapy. So, yeah.
nice. That's exciting.
Yes, actually, she's very excited to be. Yeah, very, very much. Mm. And it feels like winter today, even though there's no snow. Mm.
Yeah, I think I saw that we were getting some snow last night, but I didn't see how much accumulated. Was it enough or was it just
It was
light
flurry.
dusting?
It was flurry central. It was
Mm.
ridiculous. A part of me, I woke up and I just see dusting, and you know, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the snow very patiently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
it just made it damp out there today.
Yes.
Felt more like
Yeah.
Chicago winter.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm ready for ice fishing, ready to just have it be white everywhere for a number of months and get it over with.
Well, I've determined this will be the year to learn snowshoeing.
Mm. Are you going to be able to buy a pair, or has everybody else picked them up already?
The thing is the East Coaster in me, I would get my stuff probably from Beans, you know, though there are also a couple ski places in upstate where I went to school at Cornell, there are a couple people I know running those operations, so I could get them from there.
Nice.
Okay. Hmm.
There are also lots of places to rent snowshoes. You can check it out, see if you like it.
Sorry, just a minute. We're trying to get Latricia on. Great to see everybody. Thanks for being here. I think we've got a couple people trying to get on still with technical difficulties. I appreciate the small talk. Let's just pretend we're like in El Norteño right now, finding a place to stand around maybe and ordering something and chatting a little bit. Start our formal thing in a couple of minutes.
I walked by your house again early, as usual, Cam. I'm telling you, the wind was a little crispy this morning.
Yeah.
Because it was that sleety, just ending snow thing happening. Mm.
Oh, let me see.
You're muted, Sheldon. Mm-hmm. Hello. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Okay, all right, bye. Patricia should be on in a second. Josh still is on there. I can see, but that's all right. I think we maybe should get started because I noticed there's a lull in the small talk. But thanks for engaging in that, everybody can. And maybe we'll have a chance to go around and do introductions. But I actually wanted to turn it over to Christine to kind of set the stage and get us started. So thanks so much, Christine, for being willing to be here, and I'll let you just take it for a few minutes.
That sounds great, Cam, and it's wonderful to see you all, and I look forward to meeting those of you in person whom I haven't met yet. My name is Christine Coughlin, and it's an honor to be with you and to provide a few short words just to kind of open up the event and get us going. So as we do, I invite all of us to kind of settle in, to take a breath, and to ground ourselves in positive intention and coming together this evening. As we do so, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous people, on lands cared for by the Dakota people for generations, and we recognize, continually support, and advocate for the sovereignty of the Native nations in this territory and beyond. So I have lived here in Ward 2 with my partner and my now family of 4 for 20 years this fall. And I feel tremendously grateful to have such a thoughtful and principled representative in Cam Gordon. So before we kind of move along with things, I'm going to share an excerpt from Maya Angelou's 1993 hopeful work about the dawning of a new day called On the Pulse of Morning. I, the rock, I, the river, I, the tree. I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Here, on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country. No less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Cam to continue onward.
Thank you. I'm going to share a few more words, but first I want to turn it over to Marnie to say a few things, and then Latricia.
Hi. Okay, hello. I am Marnie Zafar, and I live on 22nd and 22nd on Milwaukee, but most importantly in Seward. And I actually met Cam Gordon about a year after I moved here from New York City. And that began a very relaxed friendship, but more importantly, I was struck from the very beginning with the very listening quality that I think of Cam when I immediately think of him and as a person. And what I have always been struck by is the fact that he's very thoughtful. He's very thinking as he's speaking instead of just throwing things out there. I think the fact that he is kind, that he is caring, and over the years, I have seen very much intimately involved with his neighbors, both the new neighbors, as I call them, and the ones who I call classic Minnesotans, is very important. He's welcoming, and he's always been accessible. I think I was very taken by that the first time I called him. And he basically picked up the phone, and I was all ready for my voicemail, and it wasn't going to be a voicemail. And we had a great, lively discussion. I really got to know him when I was board president at Seward Neighborhood Group. I had been on the board for 15 years, but during the last several years of being board president, and we had several issues of importance that we're facing, not just our new neighbors, but other issues throughout the community. Cam was very involved. He took questions, and if he didn't know answers, what I loved was the fact that he said, Not sure, but I'm going to get back to you. And guess what? He would get back to you. There was none of this saying that and never doing it. He says what he will do and he does it. And I really respect that honesty and that caringness about his neighbors. And because his community means a great deal to Cam, and the issues that face us are important, not just if they're from the past or the present, but what exactly is going to be happening to our future and for our future. And so he's always looking ahead to how he needs to implement change, but also be aware of change instead of running from change. So, I miss the fact he's not my councilman. They had the nerve to redo the ward, and I, being on 22nd by Franklin and 22nd, I am no longer in that ward too, and it's very distressing for me. However, that being said, I'm honored that you asked me to say some words about you, because my respect for you is large. And I'm happy that you are very much wanting to be in the game, to do the fight, as I put it, versus running in the other direction, because the fights are going to be even larger than they have been. And so one must be resilient, which I think you will be. Wanishi, thank you.
Latricia, do you want to take the next act? And then I'll follow.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I've changed my name now, so it should say Latricia Vital and not Brandon Long. I was Brandon for a little while, but I am Latricia Vital, and I serve as a Green Minneapolis Parks Commissioner at large, also the Vice President of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. Cam and I are the two green elected officials in the city of Minneapolis, and we are a tight group. We are very strong. we are a support system for one another. I have had the pleasure of knowing Cam for a very long time. I lived in his ward up until 3 years ago. So all of my votes for city council were for Cam. I lived in Longfellow for 14 years, and I always had a Cam Gordon sign. Even when I didn't need to have one, I made him bring one over just so people knew who I was supporting in Longfellow. So Cam and I have a personal relationship as friends. Cam has been a mentor to me for many, many years, has always been the person who calms me down when I get super hysterical about public health or just policy in general, and put things in perspective for me. Him and my husband love to talk to each other about, I don't know what, but every time I say I'm on the phone or Cam's around, he says, "Tell Cam I said hi, I miss Cam." So Cam and I have a very personal relationship and a professional relationship. Our professional relationship came long before I ran for park board. I work at North Point Health and Wellness Center in North Minneapolis and have for many, many years. And I work on tobacco control there. I also work on some transportation policies. And there has been no bigger hero or fan of my work at City Hall than Cam Gordon. There has been nothing that I have had a conversation with him about that we couldn't figure out a way to work it out on the public health perspective, and that he wasn't super pumped up about. I'll never forget the first visit. I took a bunch of young kids from North Minneapolis, all African-American kids, to City Hall to come to Cam's office and meet him, to ask him to be the champion for our then flavored tobacco policy. And I just get goosebumps just thinking about how excited Cam got that young group of African-American kids around policy making, just in general, the change that they could make in their community, how it was their job to hold him accountable for the decisions he was making that will ultimately affect them. And I just remember being on the bus going back to North Point. The kids were just so excited about the conversations they had with Cam, and that stuck with me, and it stuck with them. Every time I took a group of kids back, I always made sure they got to meet with Cam, even if it was just in the hallway. I said, hey, go get Cam, bring him out. I'm here to meet with somebody else. I just want them to see a familiar face before they go in. You know, that's intimidating for young people to go to City Hall and meet with elected officials. And Cam was always a warm, welcoming face for young people that I brought to City Hall. Cam has been such a public health force for me and all the work that I have done around tobacco control, around transportation at City Hall. There's no relationship like the relationship I have with Cam. I'm certain that we almost see eye to eye, or at least can come to a compromise on almost anything that we've worked on. And Cam and Andy Young were the first two people before I even really said I was gonna run for park board who kind of pushed me over. Cam got the word that I was doing it, and he said, my Latricia. And I said, Cam, call me his Cam. Oh my God, I'm running. It's for sure I'm running. So I couldn't turn back after Cam said, my Latricia. So Cam was one of my first supporters, he and Annie. You know, Cam took me to Open Streets, Franklin, with a piece of paper that we made and cut ourselves with just a picture and a few lines. He said, you got to get out there. Don't try to get some fancy, you know, one pager. And if you know Cam writes manifestos. So if he's telling you just put a few sentences on a piece of paper and your picture and let's get out there. And that's exactly what he did. He took me out to Open Streets Franklin, and I sat at the table with him, and we talked to as many people as we could to get me on the park board. And of course that turned out to be a success. And I was super excited that I had Cam on my side, and we've done a great job at working together on issues around pesticide-free parks, on issues around tobacco still in my regular job. I always that sense of humor along with that, you know, that fatherly advice on how to really get things done. And when I heard that it was time for him to relaunch, it's nothing else for me to say, but like, we should all be excited about Cam holding office in the city of Minneapolis. Cam is definitely a person that I respect and that I look up to, and that I aspire, you know, to continue doing the work. So Cam is our guy, always. The worst part of this next election is that I won't be able to vote for Cam on my ballot. You know, I couldn't have imagined that the last time was going to be my last time, but I'm encouraging anyone who's attending this meeting to please vote for Cam Gordon. That's it for me, Cam.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Marnie, and thank you, Christine. It's a little embarrassing to hear so many nice things about me, but I'm trying to take it in stride, and I really appreciate that introduction. I'm really grateful, and I'm honored and privileged to represent the people of Ward 2 in Minneapolis. I am still ready for this fight. I am still fired up, and I'm still incredibly hopeful. And part of that comes from my love of the city and love of the people. And I know you're not really my Latricia, but I have to say sometimes I'm at a meeting and I just think these are my people. It's almost like we're family with the residents of Ward 2 and in the city that we have. And I think it even gets to be more of that feeling as we go through some of the shared struggles that we've had to go through. I also really want to offer a thanks and gratitude because this is the formal launch of the campaign. I want to just thank my own family. You might imagine, and some of you I know have even experienced this as I see a couple of elected officials out there. This has been a pretty tough year on family members too. And having the city council suddenly become a target across the country, if not the world, for so many things. And my wife has been by my side and supportive all this time, and my kids have been tolerating it. I have to say, I have one teenager who still wishes he couldn't Google my name and see so many things about it out there, as you can imagine. But they're supportive, and they're here, and it really means a lot to me. I also really want to acknowledge my almost family member who's here too, Robin Garwood. So Robin has been with me since the first city council campaign in 2001, and he's been through all of this. And he's as much worthy of all the accolades as I am in terms of the office and what we've been able to do in Ward 2. So thank you, Robin, and really appreciate you being here and all that you've given to the city and to me. I want to acknowledge that we're really in a tough spot. I guess I probably alluded to that already, but it's really been a tough year in Minneapolis. Maybe it starts with the burning of the Drake Hotel, or when it burned down. That was an amazing blow, but that was even before COVID came. And we have been this COVID shutdown and the pandemic, the deaths, the stress that it's put on everybody and on our city has just been enormous and on our economy. And then the killing of George Floyd was so devastating, and then the unrest that followed. This could be one of the darkest and hardest years that Minneapolis has ever had. I haven't been there for all of them, but I've been there for a lot of them, and I can't imagine one that's been harder. Since we'll see how we look back at it, I guess, in 50 or 100 years from now, but this has been tough to get through. And sometimes I think it's probably felt pretty hopeless. But also, I've seen a lot of things to be hopeful about in all of this. I remember when the riots were going on, and some of the worst, for those of you who maybe don't know, some of the worst damage was done in the 2nd Ward, half a mile or so from my house. And we were terrified for a few days there. And at night, we'd be watching out for one another. And some of us who had the courage and wherewithal would walk down the streets and check on our businesses. And I would go out at night and see what happened those few nights. But then the next day, you'd go out and you'd see all the people coming forward, everybody talking and regrouping, and all the support that would come. And some of those days over on Minnehaha and Lake Street, people were coming from miles and miles away all over Minnesota and Wisconsin to bring food and to bring things and to help with the cleanup and the recovery. And it was amazing, and it is incredible. And what's even more amazing and incredible is that people in the city and in Ward 2 have kept with that. People have focused in on the needs that we have to bring to our community members, maybe who have suffered the most and who are suffering, on what we have to do for the long term in terms of transforming community safety. And I have been inspired by that. And I think we, in some ways, have the whole world watching us now and hoping that we can turn this around as much as we're hoping that we can turn around. So as dark as it is now, I think we're on the edge of some incredible opportunities. I do want to just mention one of the downsides of this event being virtual is that we can't be at El Norteño right now. So typically when we do these things, we're at some business or some house and we're all together in the same room. And really, one of the reasons I wanted to do it at El Norteño was because it would give us an opportunity to support a local business right on East Lake Street that has really suffered from COVID a great deal. Luckily, the building wasn't destroyed, but they were forced to close, and they've gone through months of hardship. They are still open for takeout Monday through Saturday, 4 to 9. So go down there and get some food if you can support them anyway. So I guess I want to talk a little bit about the future and where we're heading from here. You know, we've all experienced this trauma, but we've also noticed how resilient we are and how much we care. And I just want to stress that the values that I carried into office, that I think we all share, for justice, peace, democracy, and environmental sustainability, are still the values that I carry with me to this day. They've been the guiding values that I've used to judge all the decisions that I make at City Hall. And I think they're the values that we can carry forward now. One of the big challenges has been applying those to make our various decisions, and it's really been rewarding to do so. And I think we've made a lot of progress. As much as I'd like to talk about all the struggles and tell all the stories of the last years trying to implement these, I don't think you want me to take 17 hours. So I'm going to try to be brief, and I'm going to try to maybe focus on 4 critical issues that I think are going to be especially critical for the next 3 years moving forward. I want to be able to talk about transforming safety, just recovery and rebuilding from this crisis that we're in this year, how we can get housing for all, and what we can do to really protect our environment for the future. As I think you're all aware, transforming public safety has been a paramount concern for the city for a long time. And we've actually been working on this issue since 2006 when I was first elected. We've done a lot to set the stage and kind of lay the groundwork or maybe plant the seeds for what's coming. This starts from when we first started looking at low-level offenses, and we were able to repeal, believe it or not, dancing on the street that was illegal. Because these offenses were targeting poor people, people suffering from mental illness, and often people of color. Then we were able to repeal the lurking ordinance, where there was a law in our city where it was illegal to lurk with the intent to commit a crime. And we looked at the numbers, and it was definitely being applied with a great deal of bias towards certain populations, chiefly people of color and people who are homeless and poor. It was quite a battle to actually get that passed. We had to try twice. We failed the first time, but then with the partnership of the ACLU and the NCAP, we were able to get that moving forward, and we passed it the second time. We also repealed spitting on the sidewalk, which seems like another bizarre small rule, but these were all rules that nobody really was recognizing as much back then were part of the whole mass incarceration problem in the new Jim Crow. Well, we've been enlightened now, I think, in many ways from all the learnings that we've also done. But we've also been able to lay the groundwork in terms of looking at violence from a public health perspective. And I think I give R.T. Ryback some of the credit for this, but mostly our health commissioner, Gretchen Musikamp, for focusing on this issue. So we developed a youth violence prevention plan, and now we have a division in the public health department that's focused on violence prevention of all kinds. And we've been building that up recently. Well, we're going to have the opportunity, I believe, next year and the year after to take this transforming public safety to a new level. The first thing we have to do is make sure we pass the budget correctly this time, because right now we're looking at taking some big steps in the next week where we can invest in a 4th response to emergencies of having a mental health crisis response team going out to those calls. That's one of the things that I've heard enormous support from in the last few months, where I've been doing block club meetings throughout the ward to talk to people about this. But I also think we're going to have a great opportunity next year with our charter amendment. We need to bring that charter amendment back, and we need to get it passed. And then the following year, we need to demonstrate how we can build out the transformative public safety structure that we need that will be fair and just for all of us. There'll be a lot of work to do that, but we can do that. We need to keep looking at what are the underlying causes of crime, and I believe that we can and we will build out a public safety system that is community-oriented and community-guided throughout our city. The second opportunity I think we have that's enormous is a just recovery for all. Now we have a chance here out of the COVID crisis and the economic devastation that we're experiencing in our city. We have an opportunity to rebuild a just economy for everybody. We also really have a risk here that we're going to lose some of our most precious businesses, and some people who have suffered the most in the past are going to keep suffering. So we need to stay focused on what can we do to support our small businesses, our immigrant businesses, our BIPOC businesses. We've made a lot of strides in the last years in terms of economic justice. I remember probably the last time I ran, actually, people weren't sure what we were going to do about a minimum wage. But we passed a minimum wage. We've passed safe and sick time ordinance in our city. And now we have a groundwork laid now as we're building forward to build on that. And we need to keep focus where it belongs on a just recovery. We've also done work looking at some of the more vulnerable and stigmatized workers in our community, like adult entertainers. So I think with the right kind of focus on small businesses, not necessarily the big ones, and a focus on our BIPOC businesses and the most hard hits of Minneapolis, we can really make a big investment. I'm also suggesting we turn an investment to our youth too, and we look at how we can focus this more on maybe repairing some of the damages of the past. I believe we have a great chance right now in our city and maybe working with our county to create a children's savings program similar to what St. Paul is doing. And maybe first it's targeted on the most needy of our children so that we can start helping them as soon as they're born in Minneapolis, get some savings for their future in terms of a college education and beyond. And I also think it's time that we start looking and exploring what would a meaningful reparations program really look like in the city of Minneapolis and what could we do? And while we're at it, let's start a meaningful conversation about a guaranteed basic income at the city, county, or state level. We have basically been doing a basic guaranteed income during COVID, and we obviously have the resources in our country to provide that. And in the end, that might be the best crime prevention strategy we could think of. Housing is a crisis in Minneapolis, and it's just been so obvious this summer. And with COVID and with the hardships that people have suffered, the encampments that we've seen out there, I can say that housing is something we've been working on for a long time and pushing. We've worked hard to allow more innovative housing types for people who've experienced homelessness. Like the Envision Communities program of tiny houses, where I hope some will be built soon. We have broadened the rules on shelters. We've allowed intentional communities. We've actually taken family status out of the zoning code. We've required new affordable housing in market rate developments, and we've done a lot to protect renters and tenants. But we have some opportunities to do a lot more. I'm hoping soon next year we'll be able to pass a tenant opportunity to purchase ordinance so that we can help empower our renters in our city to move towards ownership, facilitate the creation of cooperatives like the Corcoran Five are trying to do so that they can share ownership of buildings and preserve affordable housing for the long term. I also think it's time that we make a serious investment in public housing. We have the capacity to levy at the local level a dedicated fund for public housing. We should levy that to the maximum, and we should invest that in capital for truly public housing to preserve and to build new public housing. If we made a commitment to levy to the maximum for 20 years, we could borrow off of that and we could make major investments in the next few years and have enough public housing to close and end the waiting list. I'm always overly optimistic. It might take more than a few weeks, but we would have the funds so that we could build that out in a matter of years. I also think that it's time that we look at a pay or quit and just cause eviction policy. And one of the things I'm most excited about is getting something on the ballot in 2021 that would give us the authority to do rent stabilization in our city. And if we were able to pass that in November, along with that Community Safety Charter Amendment, then the following year we'd be able to develop our program in the city of Minneapolis to do that. So stay tuned for that. And Jeremy, I'm hoping that council will be the ones to put that on the ballot. And so we better get our act together in March so that Charter Commission can do all the fussing they want with it and not be able to stop it. The last thing I really wanted to emphasize, and sorry for picking you out, Jeremy, but he's a fellow council member, and I always want to be lobbying my great colleagues to go around with my great ideas. And I know he's an ally on this and so many other things. So the last thing I want to talk about a little bit is protecting our environment, addressing climate change, environmental sustainability. We've done incredible work over the past few years as a city to kind of reframe this. Basically, our vision now has two things at its core, and this is because of the work I think that Robin and I and others who have joined us have kept pushing on: equity and addressing climate change. You can see that in the 2040 plan. You can see that in the vision we have for our city. And I think we're poised and ready to do a lot with climate change. And we take these incremental steps, these tiny things that we try to do with our funding and this policy and that policy. Eventually, we're able to write a climate action plan. Eventually, we're able to build off the climate action plan and more information and more people understanding to declare a climate emergency. Eventually, once we declare a climate emergency, it only makes sense that we start identifying what's the social cost of carbon so we can actually address this emergency and the problem that we have there. Well, we have laid that groundwork now. We have also actually separated our franchise fee from our franchise agreement. And we have now dedicated some money in our franchise fee for sustainability issues. Well, it's time now that we take this groundwork and we develop a Minneapolis new Green Deal moving forward in the future. We are in a position right now where we could increase the fee for dirty fuel, for fossil fuels. We could reduce the fee for clean fuels. And then we could take the revenue that we're getting from that and we could invest it in green jobs. We could invest it in more clean fuels and clean energy. We're actually on the cusp. We're going out for a request for proposals to try to build 2 potential clean energy resources, we're calling them right now, or have someone who will invest in them. We may not own them, although I'd be fine owning them. One would be in the city and one would be outside of the city generating clean electricity for us so we can reach our own internal goal of 100% renewable energy. It's going to take some creativity and pressure to go out with those RSP goals. I will tell you that every step of the way with these energy issues, there are legal concerns and there are problems, and the utility companies can always come up with a list of issues why we shouldn't do it. But we're ready to do it and we can do it. And I think the people want to do that. And if we have the right kind of Minneapolis Green New Deal, we can be taking those resources and we can be equitably investing them so they benefit the people who most need it in our city. We can target those on the green zones that we created to address environmental injustice in our city, and we can target those to create the jobs where they're most needed and make the improvements throughout the city. So we can do creative things like maybe even a district energy system, maybe even in the Tower Side area over in Prospect Park. So then we can start having more independent energy. Right now, we are so tied to the big producers of our energy. And I think there's a way that we can free that up by looking at more options and more alternatives. So I'm excited about these things. I believe we really have a great opportunity to do them. But I also think we have an obligation to do our work in the right way. So I just want to take a minute, not just to talk about what we do, but how we do it. One of the values of the Green Party, actually, I'll just go back to that we don't necessarily talk about a lot is respect for diversity. And I'll tell you, I believe this thing kind of came out of the concern for biodiversity. And that's critically important. And trust me, every pollinator should be saved, and we need all the biodiversity we have to have. But respect for diversity goes a little bit broader than that, I think, or deeper. And we need to respect our cultural diversity. But I think if we're actually going to work better as a city, we also have to accept our political diversity, our historic diversity. We all come from different backgrounds and we all come from different places. And I suspect you noticed, like I have, that sometimes the divisions in our city look like they are enormous. And I think if we're going to accomplish our goals, we're going to have to focus on doing a couple things really carefully. And one of them is listening carefully, and listening carefully to actually understand. And listening not just with our minds, but also listening with our hearts, so we can feel and really understand where people are coming from and help them realize they're being understood. I think that's the only way we're going to make our progress. But we also have to do something else. We also have to have the courage to share our perspectives and our history and our minds and what we're thinking and what we're coming from, but also to share our hearts with others in a respectful way when they're ready to. And that's the way I think we're going to be able to work through some of these problems and take some of these steps together. And actually, sometimes it takes adjusting. to take that step. Sometimes it takes compromise to take that step. And sometimes, and trust me, Robin and I have done this probably tens, 20, I don't know, hundreds of times. You take the step a little shorter than maybe you thought you were going to take it. You take it a lot shorter maybe than you really wanted to take it right then, because you know if you take it too far, you'll end up leaving a bunch of people behind, or you'll actually not even get 7 votes. Or you won't have the people supporting behind you. I would make the case that listening and looking for consensus has 2 really big benefits. First of all, sometimes you end up with the solution that's actually better. Because you know what? I don't know everything. I can't see all the concerns and the issues of a thing. I don't understand what somebody else understands really clearly until they tell it to me. And so knowing that and taking a little time to at least address the concerns to try to find and get there can make a big difference. Even if you're addressing the concerns, maybe don't get you that 9th vote you needed or get you the support of your entire neighborhood group board or whatever you're working on. But it can make the actual result better. Also, sometimes you do it because that's the way you're going to actually get success and move forward. And each time you move a little bit forward, you get closer to moving further forward to that ultimate goal out there. And I'll tell you, the first year I was in the city council, it felt like I was moving boulders to get anything done. And we kept moving boulders and we kept pushing rocks up the hill or down the hill or over the side of it or whatever we were trying to do with it. But eventually you get to a point, sometimes those boulders just take off on you and they're just moving down the hill and you end up just having an avalanche of success, of blessings, of whatever you want. And it's a little bit like night and day sometimes when I look at my colleagues and I look at the people of Minneapolis and where they want to go. And I go, man, that's different than where we were going 10 years ago. I couldn't even get anybody to listen to this. And now, whoa, I think they might be moving a little too fast for me. And that's a great thing. So then I guess maybe we just have to ride the avalanche, Robin, I don't know. But anyway, that's probably more than I needed to say. But thanks for letting me share so much of it. I really believe if we stay focused on where we want to go and we work together by listening and having the courage to share where we're at and maybe having some long and difficult conversations and maybe having them over and over again, that really we can create a city that cares for all of us. We can transform our public safety system. We can create an equitable economy that works for all of us. We can ensure that all of us have safe, decent housing, and we can ensure that we're leaving a climate that is livable for all of us and all of those who will follow. So take a deep breath. Yep, thanks for your applause. Thanks for being muted because I don't know how I would have handled it. I do want to turn it over now and introduce somebody who's really helping us on this campaign. It actually looks like we might have a much harder campaign this year than we did the last 2 elections. I just want people to be aware of that. I think that avalanche as it's happening means more people get fired up and excited about it, and good for us that we might have a really competitive election. Good for me to force me to do better, but it also means that we'll be working harder. I've talked to Robin a little bit about it, and I said this is going to look like more like 2005 when we had a head-on-head race, and maybe it won't, but it could potentially. So we've got big goals now that I get to every door 3 times by election day, that we have literature out there. And Robin and I looked at each other and we said, man, we're going to need help. Who could help us? Who's the best one out there that could do it? And we found somebody that we think is up to the job. And I'm so excited and happy to welcome Brandon Long to our campaign. And I want to give him a little chance to introduce himself. I think I'm going to let him come right up here to the podium and do that because he's actually here, helped with set design and wardrobe today. So Brandon, you want to come up and talk a little bit and introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. You got to see me also put up signs that fell down. So I do a lot of things. First of all, thank you so much to Christine for grounding us before this meeting. Thank you so much to Marnie and Latricia for offering those kind words for Cam. Obviously, and thank you to everyone for being here tonight. Obviously, this is a really strange time for all of us. We're pivoting and adapting to a global pandemic. So that's a learning curve for everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brandon Long. I'm an organizer. I live in St. Paul. I have organized with district councils. I've worked on different campaigns. You know, the important person here is Cam, so I won't go into it too much. But when Cam asked me to help out with his campaign, I was very happy to do so. Cam is one of the few elected officials, I'm talking at any level, that I have any faith in. I very much have nothing but good things to say about Cam. He's the only person that has an elected office that I'm excited about. So as he said, we're going to have a really exciting race on our hands. You know, we're happy to see other candidates in the race. Obviously, the more people that participate in our elections, that makes our democracy stronger. It holds Cam accountable. That's awesome. That said, we're going to need all of your help this November. Well, from now till November. So I've got 3 asks for everybody tonight. The first one is we're going to want folks to volunteer. So I believe that Robin has put in the chat, hopefully, if he hasn't, he will right now, the link to sign up to volunteer for the campaign. So right now, we're not going to be doing so much canvassing because it's going to be cold out. But in the meantime, before we do that, which we have a really ambitious plan for, we're going to want to hold Zoom house parties. Now, we'd love to do this once a month. We'd love to have a different topic. We'd love to get folks together and talk about building, as Cam said, a consensus agenda on how to make our city better. So please go to that link and sign up to volunteer. The other way that we might reach out to you when you volunteer is we'd love to get some endorsements from people. So shortly after this meeting, I would love to put up an endorsement page on our campaign. We'd love to get videos of you all saying, you know, why you support Cam, quotes to make memes, all that kind of stuff. So again, that link is in the chat. Please go to it and please sign up to volunteer. And I'm sure you can all imagine what the third ask is tonight. If I didn't say there's 3 asks, there's 3 asks, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this last one. And one of the numbers that I wanted to pull out is I was looking, we have a campaign budget till the end of the year. I'm really happy about feeling organized and focused and knowing what we want to do. One of the numbers that stuck out to me is $4,000. So if we raise $4,000, that covers all the literature we need to print for the whole campaign pretty much. That means we can reach everybody in the ward, whether it's our safe, responsible door knocking that we intend to do, whether it's mailers. We want to reach people. We need to get out there and reach new voters just as much as we want to reach those that usually vote. We want to build this coalition of neighbors in this neighborhood. So with that said, I also want to mention that the max contribution before the end of the year is $250, $600 after the first of the year. But I would be absolutely thrilled if before we left this meeting tonight, I had at least 2 people that would commit to donating that max $250. So I'm going to put that out there and then awkwardly wait for you all to respond. I'm not going to talk until somebody says they're doing it. We might be here for a while. That's all right. Oh, hey, somebody's on the chat. See, that's the way to do it too. Mark, thank you so much, 250. Mike, 250. That's the 2 people I said. Anybody else? Because again, we don't have to limit it to 2. Robin is a plant, so he doesn't count. But thank you, Robin. Can we get one more person? We can get one more person. I bet we can get one more person. Okay, well, Christine has already donated. Owen's going to talk to his wife. We'll leave it there. How about $100? Could we get at least 2 of those? There's some of you that haven't donated, so I know somebody's got $100 they just really want to give to Cam. Scott, $100, awesome. Can we get one more person? Samantha Price, 250. Woo! One more 100. John Gordon, thank you. Wendy, thank you. Anybody else? Susan or Sue? Susan. I don't think I've ever called you Susan. Sue. Also, I'm not Cam Gordon. This is going to fool you. Ann is in for 100. Lydia's in for 100. Lydia and John, thank you so much. And then obviously there's a rough time for people, so thank you so much to those people that could donate that much. Thank you again, Jesse. He's a little bit of a plant because he's working with us, but that's okay. Matthew Hendricks is also in for 200. You guys are amazing. Like, you're way exceeding my goals here, which is awesome. And again, I wanted to say thank you so much for anyone that's donating that much. I know this is a particularly rough time. I myself, I'm working part-time on the campaign, so I understand that everybody's struggling. And so your donations are very, very grateful. We're very grateful for them. Is there anyone else that can just give in 20 bucks, 15, 20 bucks before you, okay, we got Owen, and then he's going to ask his wife about more. Alice Madden, 40 bucks. Anybody else? I see some more of you. Sam Pree, 50 bucks. Woo! Betsy, 50 bucks. Keep it going. Can we get 2 more?
I got online. I did online.
Who's speaking?
Thanks, Marnie.
Oh, thank you, Marnie. One more person before I get out of here. Jenna, woo! Okay, thank you. You can keep donating. Don't let me stop you from donating, but I won't sit here and annoy you until you give us money anymore. Seriously, thank you very much. I will be reaching out to folks as they sign up to volunteer. Again, thank you so much for your financial donation. If you couldn't now and you can later, that's also appreciated. Again, if you donated that $250, you can go up to $600 after the first of the year. So I might hit you up again. Owen, where's the link to donate online? Robin, can you give that to him? How will we do house parties? Thank you. And I can take some questions before we're going to open up questions for Cam, because I want to make sure people know what we have going on. We're trying to figure that out. These will probably be like this. They'll probably be Zoom parties. We have no idea what it's going to be like. Please send an email to us. Please sign up on the link. If you sign up on the link, we'll get a hold of you. My email here, I will put my email in here as well. If anyone wants to contact me directly, you will have that, and I will get back to you. We will try to do these on Zoom. Again, we don't know what it's going to be like by November. So, hopefully in the summer, at least outside, we don't know, but we'll make it work. And yeah, again, thank you so much, everybody. And just to give you a little bit of what, we got going on, the Zoom house parties for now, or different online events and fundraising. We have a really ambitious plan for canvassing starting as soon as it's nice out. And we're going to try to hit up like the entire ward. And then it's going to be a lot of get out the vote, lawn signs, that kind of thing. So please stay tuned, and we will get you connected because we need all of your help. Marnie, I'm good for late spring, summer to host. Thank you so much. Okay, if no one has any questions for me about kind of logistics stuff, we wanted to open up for Cam to answer any questions you have. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Go Brandon, man. Well, we can basically do anything you want with the rest of our time here, and we don't have to take tons of it. One of the things I would love to hear a little bit is priorities or issues you have. Also, maybe some people want to be able to introduce themselves, which is great. Actually, it occurred to me we could have gone around and introduced everybody, but I think maybe you could do that if you want to talk now. There's several of you that have been helping advise me on the campaign, and if you have anything to share, some of you have actually been amazing community partners on work that we've done together for the city. So you heard that my 4 priority buckets, and maybe there's something I left out that you want to raise, something you think was crazy in there, you want to let me know. I kind of said I might be willing to listen to understand, so maybe you want to test me. How about you tell me your highest hopes for the city of Minneapolis? I could pick on one of you.
My highest hope is that the homeless people can get out of the camp and get into the housing, deeply affordable housing, and that you can somewhere work with Freedom from the Streets on trying to help that, because we are doing that by ourselves. And as District 2, Only reason why I'm on here today is because we got some camps that's in your site. I've been helping out more of the camps that's been in these sites. All of these camps, actually. That's Freedom from the Streets.
Well, that's fabulous. I would love to be able to get in touch too and find out where the camps are, especially in Ward 2, and reach out there. Maybe you could shoot me an email after this.
Yes.
I also just want to say, Janelle, thanks for all of your work on the Envision Community Project.
Yeah, we are still looking, or you are still looking, and we're trying to help you look for land to do that first building on. Hopefully we're getting close to something.
That's just one project that I'm working on, and it's many projects that I am working on, trying to get people from the streets off the streets, because I'm from Minnesota, born and raised, and I love my city. I just want to see people do better.
Yeah, and one of the things that I didn't mention that is we're right on the cusp of is legalizing rooming houses again, or single room occupancy buildings, and probably creating a separate license for them. But folks who don't know, really in the 60s, but for a while, maybe they were allowed in the 80s, you couldn't do a new rooming house. They were banned. They were seen as flop houses and undesirable and all of that, but it's actually one of the most affordable options. And we've seen some open in the suburbs that are of high quality, and they're affordable to somebody who's even on a fixed Social Security income. So that's something that hopefully we can also get out of the way of, and then maybe even find some money to support. And it can be that kind of pathway and ladder and that alternative safe and decent housing for some folks. But there's other options we have to explore too. And Joshua, I see you're here. Welcome. What do you think we should do about that bridge over the Mississippi? Oh, I can't hear you, Joshua. It looks like even when you're on mute, I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Sorry I'm late to the party. Yeah, I'm Joshua. I live in Longfellow, and yes, love to see the Midtown Greenway extend over the Mississippi River and connect to the brand new 8 Mill Trail over in St. Paul. So we got a lot of opportunity right now on that, with the railroads wanting to fix the bridge on 31st Avenue South, which is that little bridge tunnel by Ann Sullivan School. So if they want state funding, I think we should get some use out of the short line bridge that goes over the river.
I agree 100%.
You with me on that?
Yeah, you better believe it. Try to leverage that. And let's try to remember that, Senator Dibble, when it gets to the legislature and there's some kind of bonding request, we can attach some MOU or something to that. I think we're also really concerned about the I-94. They're talking about reconstructing the interstate, and they have this rethinking I-94 plan. And so far, it seems like it's been a lot of the same old thinking of I-94. So we would like to spark their imagination. Joshua, what do you think are the 3 big points out of that you would make if you had a chance?
Well, that's a big long-range MnDOT project to reconstruct the interstate basically between 35W and 35E through the hearts of both our city and the city on the other side of the river. So we'd like to see a little bit more than just as of what it is now, and really reconnect our neighborhoods to really reweave the fabric of Seward, Longfellow, and Ventura Park, and then of course the Rondo community and others on the other side of the river. So and transit. There's a great story about 35W that's being reconstructed right now. It's a big 3-year project, as we all know. we wouldn't be getting the orange line if South Minneapolis didn't demand it and say, you know, if you're going to do this project, we need transit too. So this is the time that we need to leverage these big projects to get more out of them than just more speeding traffic and congestion and pollution.
Yeah, this is Sheldon. For I-94, for 2 years, Seward neighborhood and Cedar Riverside neighborhood worked on a project called Reconnecting Neighborhoods to come up with plans for making better connections between the two neighborhoods. Had representatives from MnDOT and the city and the neighborhoods and Hennepin County on it, and came up with some good recommendations. And we have to make sure those happen in part of the Rethinking I-94 project. It can't just be about what do we do inside the trench. We have to figure out how to do a better job of opening the trench. And I think that's going to be really important. And probably a little bit better structural than your signs.
That was the comedy relief for the evening, I think. Thanks for enjoying that. You know, that reminds me of what probably is my favorite policy of the famous Minneapolis 2040 plan. Folks may not know this, but there is an interstate in Dallas that cut a swath right through their city. Could you believe they would ever cut a swath out of a city for freeways? Well, they did in Dallas. And then what they've done recently is they allowed some development right around that freeway, and they captured the increase in taxes from that development, and they put a lid over the freeway and created a plaza connecting several museums. And so we have called out in our 2040 plan, kind of building off of what Seward was doing in reconnecting neighborhoods, to say that we also believe we should look into how can we actually put lids over freeways. And if you're imagining or reimagining I-94, why don't you reimagine what we could do to restore Rondo? And after Rondo gets reconnected, why don't you look further down 94 to see where the next place should be? So I think we do have amazing potential here, and you're hearing it more and more places. It's an expensive idea, and so people will be fearful of that, but there are ways that other cities have found to pay for it. Now, did I see Katie here earlier? Is she still here? I don't think she is.
She was earlier, but yeah, she's gone now.
Try to give her some practice and make her introduce herself. Did somebody else want to introduce themselves?
Well, why don't I just give people a little bit on why Katie would have introduced herself. She is running for the now open seat in Ward 10. And I think that she's great. I think she's going to make a great candidate, and I think she's going to make a great city council member. So if you live in Ward 10, if you know people who live in Ward 10, if you want to see Minneapolis continue to move in a progressive direction, especially on environmental issues, which are her real bread and butter, look up Katie Jones. I'll find her website and I'll put it in the chat.
Kim, I'd like to chime in if I could. I'm Ann Laughlin. I'm not even in your ward, and you act like I'm one of your constituents. You always listen to our concerns, but I think Robin's been posting lists of your accomplishments and things you've been working on while we're meeting today. And on your environmental list, I think you should get a shout out for the work you've done to protect wildlife and birds and habitat in the city. You know, we wouldn't have that Skyway ordinance that protects birds without you. We wouldn't have Minnehaha Academy that you worked on with Wendy Hahn. I know she's on the call today, making that bird safe if you hadn't stepped in. And I know you and Councilmember Schrader are working hard on the Minneapolis River Corridor Critical Area Plan to protect the river. And I just, want to make sure that people acknowledge that work that you've done. We so appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And that's a great example of how I get to do great things just because I happen to have been elected and I'm sitting on the city council, because people will come and help and say, here's a really great idea. And that's, I suppose that's part of the end of listening to understand, because then you end up, you know, listening enough to say, oh, that's a great idea. That's totally consistent with my values, and let's move forward on that. And that Skyway ordinance was, it was wonderful, and it was mostly wonderful because it was a teeny tiny step towards getting all of buildings to get that someday,
Yeah.
and a bigger requirement there, so we could address the needs more. So it's kind of an example also of an incremental step that we can do if we have the right kind of activists and experts advising and helping along.
Yeah.
So thanks for being.
This is Dick Gilliard.
Dick, yeah.
And for those who don't know me, I live in Prospect Park, and I've been working with Cam on the University District Alliance, and more recently, the last 7 or 8 years, almost, well, really most of your time, all of your time, Cam, on the what is now the Innovation District and the redevelopment of the area along University Avenue and north of University Avenue to the railroad yards. And there's no doubt in my mind that the leadership that Cam and Robin, creativity that they've shown, would not have allowed us to do what we're doing today. And it's reflected in the 2040 plan. It's the opportunity to mix building types and uses together, living, working, learning, all in the same places and spaces, developing a connecting public realm, and really getting at this idea of climate protection through the really innovative district stormwater systems we have there. And right now we're on the doorstep of initiating a district energy system. It's been without Cam's and Robin's leadership on this, it absolutely would not be happening. But it is a model that can be applied throughout the city and throughout the state and the region. And I just think this whole concept of a district thinking would not be moving forward without your leadership, Cam, and Robin's tireless work on these issues. And it's been many, many meetings. And Cam, I sometimes kid you that I know you think the solution to everything is one more meeting, but it turns out to be true in most cases. And we owe you a lot. And I think to move this forward, we'll need you continue leading this at City Hall. Thank you.
Well, I can't wait to see it built, and I can't wait to see it replicated elsewhere, even places like the Upper Harbor Terminal. I mean, we are now thinking about places that can be built where there is absolutely no piping for natural gas whatsoever, and all the heating needs will be met. So, does anybody else want to share what they're working on, or a priority, or part of what I should be working on? I would say that we did an absolutely fantastic and amazing job figuring out how to open this meeting. Thank you so much, Christine. And I'm now wishing that I had figured out how to close it just as well. So Brandon might want to say something that isn't really kind of the spiritual way that I wanted to close it, so I'll be right back.
No, I'll let him do the spiritual part. I just thought, I was very excited and thought everyone would like to know that you all have donated $2,240 tonight, which is halfway to our goal. So thank you so much. Congratulate yourselves. This is awesome. I'll let Cam do the spiritual thing.
Well, I don't know so much if it's spiritual, but that's an easy segue into just taking breath and feeling grateful. It's really kind of bizarre to be an elected official and run for office and do all the things that we do. I don't know if you've ever thought this, Scott or Jeremy, but it's a strange way to get a job. And it's a strange position you're held in by everybody else about what it actually means. And it's a pretty much of an impossibility to be the voice for each individual that we represent. But that's kind of what we try to do. And it's sometimes pretty, I don't know, awe-inspiring to get the kind of recognition that we sometimes can get, and just to think that we're actually worth voting for again and being supported like we are. but it's such an honor and such a privilege, and it feels like such a deep responsibility. I can't tell you how seriously I take it, and I think about it, and I weigh what I'm doing, and you can weigh what you're doing, and then you can actually see the people that you're doing it for and representing, and look back. And so you think about things like, you know, the people's will, and you think about the consent of the governed, and it is actually kind of sacred. And I just want you to know that. And I feel so, so blessed and fortunate that I can be part of your lives and everybody's life like this, and I can do this work and do my little part to help make this a better city for everybody. And I'm excited about what we get to do next. And I know that it's going to be hard work, and I know that there's going to be battles, and we're going to be knocked down, but we're going to keep moving this thing forward. And I really appreciate all your support and you being here tonight to help me. And here we go. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So good night.
Good night.
Take care. Thanks for being here. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for inspiring
Thank you.
around the country.
You're welcome.
The work you're doing in Minnie.
Oh, you're welcome, Owen. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here, Samantha, Ann, Jesse, Lee, good to see you. Matthew, Wendy, Holly.
Thanks, everybody.
Mariah, I'm always going to say your name wrong, I think, but hopefully that was close.
Mariah, yep. Thanks, Cam.
Hey. All right, great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robin.
Good job, Robin.
All right.
How did it go?
All right. See everybody.
When do we meet again?
I don't know. Next week?
Next Sunday?
Week, yep.
Okay. I think that was kind of a success.
I think that was a great success. Fantastic.
All right. We still got some people. No, we don't. Do we? No, 3.
How's
There we are, Holly.
Holly's
Yeah.
here.
Did we hit? I think I told my kids that if I got between 25 and 50, I'd be happy. And we got over
35.
35.
That's what Robin said.
Okay.
That's perfect.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Good work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good dinner.
We're launched.
Okay.
I'll go try to
See you guys.
recover. I was a nervous wreck. It's weird how you still get nervous about this stuff.
Isn't it funny?
Yeah.
That's good though. If you weren't, then I would.
As if we're not on Zoom calls every minute of every day, all the time.
This whole thing should be weird for a normal human being.